I've been thinking a lot about what it really means to build something while you're constantly moving. And I don't just mean physically traveling, though I do plenty of that. I mean the mental state of being on the go. When you're between meetings, waiting for a flight, sitting in a coffee shop in a city you barely know. For the longest time, I thought serious building required serious sitting. You know, the whole setup. The desk, the monitor, the dedicated workspace, the uninterrupted blocks of time. But that's not actually how my life works anymore. And I'm guessing it's not how yours works either. Here's what changed for me. I stopped trying to do everything myself and started treating AI agents as my building partners. Not assistants, not tools, partners. Let me give you a real example. Last week, I was in a taxi in Panama City, stuck in traffic, and I had this idea for a feature I wanted to add to one of my projects. Normally, I would have just made a note and hoped I'd remember the context later. Instead, I opened my phone and started a conversation with Claude. I described what I was thinking. Rough, messy thoughts, the kind you'd share with a coworker you trust. By the time I got to my destination, 20 minutes later, we'd sketched out the entire approach. The agent helped me think through edge cases I hadn't considered. It suggested implementation patterns I'd forgotten existed. It asked clarifying questions that sharpened my thinking. I didn't write a single line of code in that taxi. But the building happened anyway. This is what I mean by AI-augmented building on the go. It's not about coding on your phone, which honestly sounds terrible. It's about keeping your building momentum alive, regardless of where you are or what you're doing. The agents I work with handle the parts that used to require me to be at my computer. They can draft code, research technical approaches, debug issues, even refactor entire modules. What they can't do is understand what I'm actually trying to build and why. That's still on me, and that's the work I can do anywhere. I've started structuring my projects differently because of this. I think in conversations now, instead of thinking in files. When I'm walking to get lunch, I might dictate thoughts about architecture decisions. When I'm waiting for someone, I might review code that an agent generated based on our last discussion and provide feedback. The agent remembers everything. It knows the context of our last 17 conversations about this project. It knows the patterns I prefer, the trade-offs I care about, the constraints I'm working within. So I don't have to rebuild that context every time. I can just pick up where we left off. What's wild is that this actually makes me a better builder. Because I'm thinking about problems in smaller, more frequent sessions instead of waiting for those mythical 4-hour blocks of deep work. My subconscious gets more chances to process. I catch issues earlier. I explore more alternatives. And here's something unexpected. Building this way feels more human, not less. Because I'm having conversations about my work. I'm explaining my reasoning, questioning assumptions, iterating on ideas. That's how humans have always collaborated on complex problems. The difference is that my collaborator is an AI agent that never gets tired, never forgets context, and can instantly generate working code based on our discussions. But the thinking, the deciding, the creative work, that's still happening in my very human brain. I'm not saying this replaces traditional building. When I'm back at my desk, I still dive deep into code. But now that's just one mode of building instead of the only mode. And that shift has made me so much more productive as a solo founder who's constantly on the move. The future of building isn't about finding more time to sit at your computer. It's about having partners, AI partners, who can build with you wherever you are, however you work, whenever inspiration strikes. For me, that's been completely transformative, and I think we're just getting started.